Welcome back, you guys. This is Mark with NCEngravers, and today we're going to be working on the Smith & Wesson SW40F. Now, if you've been in the firearm industry for an extensive period of time, you've probably seen this model slide or something very similar to it. There happen to have been a handful of models that Smith & Wesson got smacked from Glock over a patent-protected, copyright cloning, stealing type of a scenario. This happens to be one of those model slides that Glock wasn't too happy about, felt as though Smith & Wesson was kind of coming in a little bit on their patent design, and we're going to put an end to that relatively quick. There was a handful of slides, no doubt, that ended up making their way to the market. More than likely, when I say handful, probably in the thousands, maybe even tens of thousands. And they're still kind of surfacing out there, right? We do see a lot of those SW9s. We've had a handful of the 40s. So just, some of these people have these slides in hand. Let's do something with them. I do own it. It is kind of a unique piece for what it is. And that's one of the reasons why those weapons make their way to us. It's a one and done. We've got one shot at perfection on modifying and altering a slide that, one, we really probably can't replace, and two, doesn't really align with anything else that we do. So you got to make sure you're sending your work to the right place to make sure the work is done accordingly and to the highest standard, because it's a one and done type of a shot scenario. So with that, guys, that's one of the reasons why it's here. I want to talk a little bit about the slide, the hurdles that we're going to have with the slide. I want to go into the work. Of course, we're going to show the work, and we're going to bring it back. So this being a 40 model is slightly different than the 9. It has much thicker walls, and it has this edge here on the top that we usually don't see on the 9. They've changed the style just a little bit between those two versions. A lot of manufacturers nowadays, the 9 and the 40, look almost the same, with the exception of where the barrel goes, and sometimes the lockup area is a little bit different to make sure you can't swap barrels between them. But usually the slides look almost identical to the point where you may not even be able to tell. But on the 40 model, between the SW9 and the SW40, they are a different design altogether. We are going to run into some issues with this design that we're going to get into here in a moment, and that's the text. The text is so far back to the rear serrations. This is probably going to be a pretty big challenge. We do want to shave the sides. We do want to make sure we remove the text. Obviously, you guys can tell that the text is some sort of a roll mark. The top of the engravings are not as deep as the lower section. This causes an issue when how deep do we cut to remove the text. Some of that text could come right off first pass. Other ones we're going to have to go a little bit deeper in order to remove the text. I don't think we're going to run into a major issue just because of the thickness of the sidewalls, but on some model slides that can become a definite problem. This side is a little bit more unique. We've got some really deep engravings up here where we have the caution, and then of course you get down here where the magazine is removed text, and it's barely there. So once again, roll mark type of issue. We are going to shave the sides. Guys, the idea here is a side shave to remove the text, windows on the sides, cobra nose, raptor cuts on the top. We're going to see how that's going to play with those edges, and then we're going to do an optic, right? So we've got kind of a big range of work that we're going to be doing here. We are trying to reduce some weight. This guy is pretty heavy for what it is. So overall, we're going to be able to see some barrel. We're going to get some nice texture and some nice feel for hand over the top cycling in the front zone with the windows. Of course, we're going to get weight reduction because we're going to be cutting material. We're going to be adding an optic, so we're going to get better as far as, we're going to have a little bit more fun, I should say, as far as when shooting the weapon. A lot of stuff is optic ready nowadays out of the market, so it's kind of nice to bring that up to where we need to be. Guys, I think at this point, what we really want to do is just run this guy over to the CNC machine. We need to start this. We need to go through that cut work. We're going to bring it back. Obviously, things are subject to change. We might go through the middle of this and take a little bit of a different direction or do something just a little bit different that we typically wouldn't do just because we don't typically work on this slide. I'm really excited to see, kind of bring this dinosaur of a slide, super heavy, super thick, super square, incorrect roll marks, back to some sort of a newer version of something that's out on the market now that you could have. So a lot of people enjoy the weapons that they have. Opportunity to upgrade them, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Guys, let's jump over to the CNC machine. Let's see what we come up with. guys, let's take a look and see exactly how this came out now that we are back together. No doubt this was a little bit of a challenging slide just because it is its own style. In other words, some of the patterns, some of the designs that we've done before, even though you happen to see them on this slide, they really don't align with this slide, right? We talked about that a little bit at the beginning of the video. I do want to go over that a little bit more. I want to explain it just in greater detail. Let's talk about the features first. Optic cut, we went ahead and removed the rear iron sight from the slide. Of course, this guy has a built-in rear iron sight that will work with the front, so not a big deal there. We ended up doing a side shave to remove the text. I really like how the side shave aligns with the rear serrations. It looks almost factory-ish, the way in which this side is shaved, the spacing on this last peg here, or this last serration, matching the existing. It's a clean look. Then, of course, we ended up doing the Cobra nose. We've got some Raptor cuts on the top. We ended up going with stainless Cerakote as our slide finish. Guys, a couple of the notes I want to just kind of point out here to you guys is we usually, when we do these, the front iron sight is totally trashed. It will not go back in. Matter of fact, this is the first model I've seen that this was actually, you could push it in and take it out. There's no screw on the bottom. It's really interesting. Typically, if you do an SW9 or 40, in some cases even an F model, usually that front sight is glued in, so it ends up being removed, trashed, thrown away. It needs to be replaced with a Glock sight. That's what these holes are on the slide. We went ahead and put it back in just because it works. Of course, the customer does have the option of just straight up throwing that out and replacing it with a Glock sight. Now, one of the other things I want to talk about a little bit on this slide is the weight reduction. Crazy change over the original to where we are now, considering, just how much stuff has been done here. Now, I know there's a lot of you guys out there that say, hey, I wish you would do a weight comparison before and after to kind of tell us where this is, so when I send mine in, I kind of know what I'm getting, because we do have a lot of guys that are after some sort of a weight restriction or a daily carry, which obviously the lighter the better. One of the reasons that we really don't do a weight comparison before and after is because there's a lot of variables to what we're doing. Okay, let me give you an example of that. On this slide, we happen to have done everything. Shaved the sides, simulated windows, side windows, Raptor cut, Cobra nose, optic. But in some cases, with different models that are out there, we may end up having something like different iron sights that are going back on the gun, right? So you may end up using suppressor sights, or you may be using a different optic model, maybe a Romeo Zero that happens to be a polymer type optic, but they do also come with a metal shield. So these are all things that are going to throw off the overall weight of what is it. Now, of course, we could strip the slide and do a weight comparison with none of those extra parts on there, and we could probably get you down to the details of what you're looking for. But at the end of the day, what ends up happening is everyone's setup is a little bit different. We've seen a lot of different slides come from different manufacturers. Glock is a great example. You buy a new 19, right? Gen 5 that's out there, comes with plastic sights, right? You pull that slide off, you weigh it, it should weigh the same as everything else, except it doesn't, because the 19X, which is the same slide, has metal sights, right? So you can kind of see sometimes where there's a couple of different things that can throw a weight comparison off. Some have front serrations, some don't. I would hate to promise you something and then in the end we're off a fraction of an ounce and you're not happy. So that's one of the reasons that we don't do that. But back on topic, major weight reduction over what we started with on this slide. This slide was aggressively blocky, and now we've got a lot of nice features overall. We're going to be able to see some nice barrel with the Cobra nose, chamfered on that edge there. 4 of the aggressive Raptor cuts, but not aggressive enough to take your skin off. Just overall a really nice design. Guys, I would encourage you to like the video if you happen to like the content. This happens to be a unique model that we don't really work on because we don't really see that many of them out there, right? There was just a handful of them that we discussed at the beginning, so it's kind of cool to be able to see something that we don't often see. And then, of course, if you subscribe, you have the opportunity of getting alerts whenever those new videos do come out. We do have a couple of newer videos coming down the line. One of them is a repair video. I know a lot of you guys like to see repair videos, something that's come to us that's already been damaged. How do we go about correcting that and making it done correctly in the eyes of the customer? So we do have one of those that's going to be hitting the playlist here in the next probably week or two. It's right here. We're in the process of working on it right now, so I would dare say that that's coming up. And of course, Instagram and Facebook is kind of the place to be. If you want to see stuff early, go on Instagram. All that stuff ends up getting moved over to Facebook. tons of reviews on Google. Go read them, listen to the customers, take note of the thumbs up. You know, usually the customer itself will write a review, but then you're going to see a lot of those thumbs ups for the people that agree with that comment. So you're going to still see a lot of content on there as well. We would encourage you to kind of dig through that a little bit more to make sure you get that nice fuzzy feeling of confidence before you place your order. And of course, feel free to use the webpage to send us emails, ask us questions. You know, we'll go over all those details before you actually place your order. We'll make sure everything is in order before we actually start the cut work. You'll be super happy when you get your stuff back. Turnaround time is one of the fastest in as far as what's on the market right now for the normal stuff, like the optics and stuff. We're one of the quickest for getting that stuff back. Custom stuff takes a little bit longer, but we may be one of the only people working on the SW40F model slides out there. So this is a great example of choosing the right vendor to have that work done for a model that no one else seems to work on. Guys, you can catch me on the next one, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions.